Providers YouTube channel. I'm very excited to announce that I've been chosen as a content creator for FlexiWood Mouldings. I started stocking them in my store in Perth when they launched last year in November, and they've been very popular. They started with collection 1, then brought out collection 2, and very soon collection 3 will be arriving, which I'm very excited about. So my first project, I'm going to be doing this raised stencil sign using the ornamental birds, which is really pretty. This is what it looks like. As well as the birds, it comes with some little blossoms on a branch and some snowdrops. You could use a variety of different stencil words and mouldings on here. Like you could center the word and maybe have 2 different mouldings, one on either side, or something more organic, some cherry blossoms, or a decorative frieze, which you could stick on top and have it sort of overhanging on the top and then have your stencil word underneath. But this is the one I've chosen to do today. So I'll take you through the steps and materials you need, which are all available in my store, Paint and Gather. The first thing I'm going to do is create the stencil part with the paste here that I have to create the raised stencil. Because the mouldings are thick, if you put them on first, if you glue that on first, your stencil wouldn't be able to lay flat because it's too close to the moulding. And most stencils do have a wide edge around them, which is good because when you're applying the paint, you don't want it to come off and go into areas that it's not supposed to be. So to work around that, we'll paint the base and your stencil area first and then stick the moulding over the top. This is actually just wall putty filler. It's about $6 a tub from Bunnings. You can get tubes of it, which are a lot more expensive, but this is fine. It works really well. There's a lot in there. It cures and dries, sets very hard, which is good for durability depending on what project you're doing. And I've experimented with a few different stencils. It just fits through an ordinary stencil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape this in place on my wood here and push the paste through it using the little spatula that comes with the tub. Okay, so I've just moved in the camera so you can see a bit better, closer up. I've taped down the stencil halfway, and I've made sure there's enough room on my piece of wood here to actually fit the moulding later on. And I really like these branches that also come with little birds. So I'm going to place some like this up on that side, and this bit here won't be wasted. I'm going to cut that, and then I'm going to put it maybe somewhere there or there, and then use the other pieces from the set to fill in this gap so it'll all be balanced out. A little bit of advice for this one, for the birds: don't pick it up by any of the smaller, little finer pieces because they might snap off because of the weight. So hold it by the thicker parts in the middle. There we go. But that's all right. It doesn't matter if these pieces break. You can glue them back together and it's all fine. That's the beauty of the FlexiWood Mouldings. So I've worked out where everything's going now, and it's all going to be spaced out really well. So now I'm just going to add the paste. You just push it down through the stencil, and when there's a little bit there, it kind of sort of sits firmly in place too, which helps. And I just smooth it back and forth. Doesn't matter if a little bit gets pushed underneath. Kind of adds to the rustic look, but you can also just use a wet cloth, damp cloth, to clean it off. Just scrape it over like that. It's just a little bit. Just going over it now to see that's all evenly spread out. Just go back and forth. pretty good. Yep, okay. Then you just peel the stencil off. Definitely do this while it's still wet. So you can see that looks pretty good. If you can see how raised it is there. I didn't really have any bleed through. Looks good. No mixture went underneath. So I'll just let that dry for about an hour or two. I can definitely hit it with a hairdryer to speed it up. And I'm just gonna go and wash this because it will set very hard and ruin my stencil. See you in a bit. I've actually decided I want to see if I can speed up the process. So I'm drying it with the hairdryer and it seems to be working. That was literally just like maybe a minute or two, and it's hard. Now it's set and ready to go. No need to wait. The next step is to paint your board. I'm going to use Sloan chalk paint in a color called Old Ochre. And I'm going to do 2 coats on the front and 2 coats on the back. Great things about chalk paint is that you can speed up the drying process by using a hairdryer. Helps get projects like this done in one afternoon. So the next step is to take your stencil, place it over where you created the raised part, and then we're going to dab on our other colour to help it stand out. I will tape it down just to help it stay in place, but it's pretty good. And when you do raised stencil like this, when you put the other colour on, has a far less likely chance of bleed through because it's raised up. I'm going to use a pale colour, it's one of Sloan's whites called Original. It's a very creamy vintage white. I'm going to use a sponge stippler. The trick with stenciling is to think of it like a dry brushing technique. You want a very minimal amount of paint on your tool as possible. So in this case, I'm just offloading the sponge onto some paper towel. Pressing down lightly, up and down motions. Also helps prevent bleed through. Okay, there we go, let's have a look. And that's it, that's your home. Now we're going to paint the birds, the mouldings in white, and then we'll stick them on. For some of these little delicate area bits, I might actually use a smaller brush that I have here, just in case. And I'll do 2 coats of this. I'm just painting the other pieces now, the little twigs. Because we're painting it first before sticking it on, and some of these pieces are very fine and small, to avoid breaking them off while you're painting, just lay it down flat like this. And it's supported by the table. Just like that. and using a little brush where you can get into those little crevices and little bits there. I finished painting the mouldings with 2 coats of the original white, and now they're ready to stick onto the painted wood there. The glue I'll be using is called Gorilla Wood glue. It's sold all over the world. It's really good stuff. I've used it for a lot of projects. I highly recommend it. I'm not sure what other brands there are, but Gorilla Wood glue is the one we recommend. And I just like to squirt it out into a tray to make it easy to work with. To stick it on, you really need 2 little brushes. This is the one I use to apply the glue to the mouldings, and then when you've heated them and pressed them down, you use this to wipe away any little excess glue that comes out of the side, and also like a damp cloth helps. So I'll show you how to do that. So I'm not really bending the mouldings around anything. I'm just going to heat them to make them sit flatter to the project. So what I'll do first, in this case, is apply the glue on the back. You just brush it on like that. All around the little areas there. And then what happens when I heat it, with the hairdryer, it will help this glue dry faster as well as make the moulding sort of relax down and become matched to the surface of the wood, which isn't 100% flat either. So we'll just put this on here. Just a thin coat. You want enough so it sticks, but not too much that's like all oozing out the sides everywhere. Especially in this case because we've already painted it. So we don't want globs of glue showing up on the sides. Okay, that's pretty good now. So I'm going to line it up. Actually, that's pretty good, I think. And just move it down a little bit. All right, so I'm going to press that to position it. And just push down quite firmly in multiple areas so it's got like a basic grip there. And some of the bits are sort of popping back up again. So that's when I use the hairdryer to heat it. It only takes a couple of seconds actually, and you can feel the moulding soften. I'm just going to blast a few more of the areas and press them down. If you can see in this area here where I've pressed down, the glue has oozed out the side. That's where your little brush comes in handy. So you just smooth it out, and then you can wipe it off on this cloth and get any gobs out. The glue dries clear anyway. You just don't want to see any bubbles of dried glue there. So you're just neatening up the edges. Pretty good though. And clean that up. all around like that. For the twig part, which is too long, I need to cut it. I could maybe stick it on, then cut it, but I think it might be best if I cut it first. So I'm just gonna mark the place with a pencil. And then I found cutting them is a lot easier when they're warm, so I'm gonna heat it. And I might just do that on some paper, just to protect the table. And you just saw through it using a Stanley knife, or some people call it box cutter. There we go, that was pretty easy. I'm gonna keep that piece for the other side. Okay, so now that goes there. Most part of it done now. It's looking really good. There were just a few parts, little touch-ups that I have to do. I can show you here where I cut the wood. You can use a little sanding pad. This is an Sloan sanding pad in medium, and just sand it smooth. If there's any bits hanging off the edge. FlexiWood is made out of sawdust, so it acts and behaves a lot like real wood. So you can definitely sand it smooth. Then I can just use my original to touch that up. Something else that I will show you at the moment too is this little piece had broken off, which I painted, and it goes here. And I'll just apply some glue to the edge and the underside. Line it up and press it down where I want it to go. Then I'll heat that. You can really feel it give when it starts to relax, when it's all warm. Just get any of that excess glue out there with my little fine brush. So now we're ready to wax. Chalk paint needs to be sealed, so I'm just going to use a clear wax first, which I've massaged in all over here, and then I'm just going to wipe that off. Just any of the excess that's sitting on top. If you find that there's globs of wax stuck in between these little areas of the moulding, you can work it out with a brush. Just get it out like that. And now the last step to blend this together and give it an aged look is to add some dark brown wax to it. I just use a little brush and work it in and around the details and around the edges. Use some paper towel just to wipe that back. Makes it look old, but it also enhances the details of the mouldings. If you feel that you've got too much, you can use some of this clear wax and rub back some of the dark, so you can manipulate it in areas that just you want it to be in. You want to clean up some of that. Yeah, there we go. That looks better. awesome it looks in all the crevices. And once again, if you have any wax, either the clear wax or the dark wax that's really stuck in these crevices, you can use the brush again. Just kind of scoop it out and just wipe that off on some paper towel. So this is the finished work here, and there's just one little thing left to do, and that's to put a bracket on the back, or a hanger, so you can make it into a sign. So I just measure halfway, that's 33, so 16.5, and I make a little mark with the pencil. Just double check I'm doing it on the right side up. These little bracket plate things have a little dot there, so I just line that up. That's the middle point there. And then it comes with these little nails. I've put a cloth underneath because the sign's not flat and I don't want the mouldings to get damaged by banging on the table. Just remember too, whatever nails that you're putting into it, they have to be shorter than the width of your wood so they don't poke through the front. And there you go, finished.